What's up, you guys? It's Victoria from UnderVictoriaSpell, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about my end of the month wrap up for February. I finished 4 books and I had 1 DNF. I feel like that's pretty good. They were some chunkers, some of them, so I'm excited to talk about these books that I read in the month of February. So to start, I'm gonna do a little bit of like stats and stuff like that. So total books that I read in the month of February was 12. That's really good for me. To meet my reading goal, I need to read on average at least anywhere between 7 to 9 books a month. But I read 12, so that's over my goal. I'm so happy about that. And star rating, I'm going to talk about those. I had 1 DNF, which I'm going to talk about in this video. No 1 stars, 1 2 stars, and I had 4 3 to 3.5 star reads. I had 5 4 to 4.5 star reads, and I had 2 5-star reads. So I feel like it was a pretty good reading month. I'm excited to talk about the last few books that I read, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of statistics first because I'm a big numbers person as well. So I just wanted to go ahead and get those to you all. Okay, so the first book that I picked up in the second half of February is Bait by Jade West. My rating for this book was 3 stars. I have some thoughts about this book. It was really interesting, don't get me wrong. Like, it had me captivated from the first page because it was such a unique read. Pretty much it follows our heroine as she has completely started a new life and she is just struggling mentally from the trauma from her past. And so she joins this online dating thing, but pretty much it's just like a hookup site, and she's looking for her monster, and pretty much that means that she is looking for someone to pretty much be horrible to her. So what I mean by that is what you need to check for your trigger warnings, because this deals with very, very heavy topics such as loss of a child, extreme force, and many other sensitive topics. So please check your trigger warnings. So then you are following our hero who is also dealing with his own trauma, and he has this urge about him that he really just wants to fight. Hopefully my fiance will not disturb me again while I'm trying to film. So anyway, pretty much our hero is struggling with the demons that he is dealing with in his life, and that has kind of caused him to join this hookup site as well and become this heroine's monster. So it is their messed up love story, and it was really intriguing. It was, but I felt like when it got to the actual emotional part, it failed for me. Like, it just felt not genuine. It just felt like it was rushed, like insta love after they have gone through these sexual escapades. It failed for me a little bit there. I really enjoyed them dealing with their trauma in different ways, but the insta love for me knocks down the star ratings for me because I hate insta love, and it just was not done well. Now, I really loved the suspense element in this story. I thought it was done very well. I felt like the mystery aspect was really good, but just like I didn't feel the chemistry emotionally between the characters. I felt it, for them sexually, but not them together. I just didn't understand how they were going to make their relationship work in the long run. So it was a 3-star read for me, but if you like dark romance, this is definitely one for you and could be considered a little taboo. The next book that I'm going to talk about is actually my DNF, and this was really sad for me because I really don't think it was the book. I really think it was me, and it was the book that I was buddy reading with my sisters. and that is Zodiac Academy. I believe the first one's The Awakening. I DNF'd this at like 20%, and there's nothing wrong with the book. I just have not been in a fantasy mood, and I just was not interested. Like every time I picked it up, I felt like I was forcing myself to read it, and I never want to force myself to read a book. So I decided to put it down for right now. I have a Goodreads folder where it's like saved for later, because I definitely want to pick up the series because I know it is so loved and it's a very addictive series. My sisters are on book 3 right now already, and they're like, please pick it back up, but I'm just not in a fantasy mood right now. I'm in my small town era, if you watched my last video. So I just haven't been in the mood for it. So that was my DNF. This does follow sisters and they're like magical powers. So yes, very fantasy. And it's like 8 or 9 books at this point. So I will pick it back up eventually, but right now it is just not the right book for me. Okay, and the last 3 books that I'm going to talk about are all in the same series, but they do follow different couples and they do have different stories. But I had my Hoopla credits. I have 3 a month, and I picked up the first 3 books in the Shutter Lake series by Catherine Cowles. So the first book that I read is Beautifully Broken Pieces, and that's number 1. And I was really wanting to try Catherine Cowles, but I'm such a backlist girl, so I was like, I really want to start at the beginning of where she wrote her books and kind of go forward. So this is the first one, and this follows our heroine as she recently has just lost someone in her family, and she's dealing with a lot of grief, and she's really stuck in her life right now, and she decides to just have a fresh start to kind of, you know, figure out what her next moves in life are. And so she is staying on this ranch because it's like a super small town. And this is where she meets her hero, Walker. He is the sheriff deputy in town, and he's also, this is his family's like ranch, farm, guest house. So he also was asked by her friends to just keep an eye on her because, you know, she is going through a lot and she's in a new town where she doesn't know anyone. And so he is kind of taking it personally to just look after her as well. So it is their love story together. It is very push and pull in the beginning because she is just so like, I want to be left alone in my peace and silence, and she also is just so independent, and he is so protective because of his job, because of his family, but also because of the trauma that he has went through in the past. And I really loved the push and pull because I really understood both of their perspectives, why she wanted to be so independent and why he was so gung-ho on being protective and just being there for her as a human being. Really loved this story. And then you have the suspense element of it, and I thought it was so good. I'm always so surprised in romantic suspense. I am just not someone who, I guess, reads in between the lines sometimes, so I did not see the suspense aspect of who was doing all these things in this town, and it was so good. The last like 2 hours, I mean, I was hooked in this book. It was so good, and I'm so glad that we got to see, you know, Walker and Taylor's story. It was a beautiful introduction to the series. I did give this book 4 stars. It was a really solid 4 stars. It's not my all-time favorite, but it was still very, very good. And the next book that I'm going to talk about is Beautifully Broken Loft. That's book number 2 in the Shutter Lake series. I gave this 4.5 stars. I absolutely devoured this book. Loved this story. I talked about it in my small town romance video that I just did earlier this week, and oh my gosh, it was so good. This follows our heroine Tessa and our hero Liam. Tessa, you are introduced to her in the first book, and she works at the tea shop in town as like the baker, and she also lives in the upstairs apartment at this tea shop. Well, you kind of in book one learn, you know, she's like very quiet, keeps to herself, and she's a little jumpy as well. And this story really deals with domestic violence, so please know that before going into it. If that's a trigger for you, you should definitely know that before going into this book. But Tessa is on the run from her ex. She has changed everything about her life, and she lives very simply in private. And then in comes Liam. You're also introduced to him in the first book because he is a big pop star from Los Angeles, but he's not just any pop star, okay? He is not cocky or anything. He is such a down-to-earth soul and is really looking for some quiet time to write his new album. And also, he's just getting tired of the LA life. Like, he's ready for something simple, but he's also really stuck in writing until he meets Tessa, this beautiful girl with violet eyes. And he is just obsessed with her, and she is just so like, stay away from me. Because this really is a friends to lovers romance when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, because he really just wants to be there for her and kind of understand why she is so jumpy and why she is so secretive. And Tessa is so like, oh my god, he's literally a celebrity. I am on the run from my ex, and what is he doing hanging out with me? So like, it adds that suspense automatically to their relationship. It was so good. I love their romance. I thought the way that it was developed was so well written, and I really enjoyed how much Tessa grew and let Liam in, and I just loved seeing how they were interconnected and grew together as a couple. It was just so good. 4.5 stars. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is the third book in that series, and that is Beautifully Broken Spirit. And this was Jensen's story. Let me just tell you, I was so excited for Jensen's story. In book 1 and 2, I was obsessed with her. She reminded me of Eloise from the Eden series by Devney Perry. So I was so excited to get to her book. And I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I'm really sad because I did not want to give this book 3 stars because Jensen was like my favorite character, and her love story is with Tuck, who you're also introduced in the first 2 books. And I was like, I'm ready for this banter. It's friends to lovers, one of my favorite tropes like ever. So to see that this story didn't really live up to what I was expecting made me sad. This follows Jensen as she is dealing with the repercussions of what happened in book 1. You don't have to read book 1. I do suggest you read them in order, but it is talked about enough where you can understand what she's going through. And she also is dealing with wanting to be independent. Her brother is Walker, who you meet in book 1, so he's a sheriff's deputy. She is just been so overprotected her whole life, and she's ready to spread her wings, and it's hard for her to do because her family is so protective of her, and she is fighting for her freedom and also the grief and the guilt that she has been carrying for so long. And I was like, this is such a beautiful setup to the story. And it's a friends to love, like a childhood friends to lovers, because Tuck, who is our hero, they have been best friends since she was like born. Like, he watched her grow up, and it was just, I was so ready for it. Okay, no, it was too not insta love, but too insta whatever they had going on. Like, when I was reading the scene where they first get together, I was like, I had to go back and read it because I was like, what just happened? Because I did not see that happening. And I just thought that it started off wrong. The suspense of it was not built up. The angst of it was not built up. I was just really disappointed. And also, this is a single parent romance as well. You would think as a single parent romance that your child would be in the book more. And her son was always off doing something else. Like, there was very few scenes dealing with her son. And I just was really disappointed because I was like, this is such a great opportunity to see her as a mom and see, you know, what she was fighting so hard to do in the role of being a parent. And I just felt like it was not fleshed out for me. So, and the suspense aspect of it as well, like I liked it, but I was a little annoyed with it. I felt like it was not fleshed out either, and that really made me sad. I mean, overall, it was a good read, but after reading the first two and you're meeting these characters, you just expect something from their story, and I was just let down by it a little bit, and I really hate that. But I'm on book 4 in that series right now, and I'm really enjoying it. Catherine Cowles really is such a bingeable author because she hooks you, and it's pretty much just like whenever you read or listen to her books, it's like a warm hug because she just writes such relatable characters, I feel like. So that is the last book that I read in the month of February. And that's all that I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you read in the month of February. I would love to know. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I read this month. I would love to chat about it in the comments below, or you can follow me on Instagram and we can chat it up. But I will see you guys next time, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.